Hey, we often get asked, what does a demand generation program look like? Well, in this video, we're going to break it down. Just like any marketing campaign or strategy, demand generation can get pretty complex. But we've broken it down into what we think are some of the simplest components of an effective demand generation strategy. But before we kick things off, what is demand generation? We like to split demand generation into its two halves, demand creation and demand capture. We see demand creation is all about shining a light on your specific brand or service, while demand capture, on the other hand, is taking those high intent individuals, so the people that have raised their hand, and making it easy for them to connect with your sales and marketing team so they can eventually either schedule demos or purchase and buy your product. So here's kind of the big picture view of a demand generation program. Even getting a little bit deeper into demand generation, it overall really maps to the buyer's state of awareness. And so on the left-hand side, you have unaware, you move from problem aware, solution, product, and then most aware. And these 5 stages of awareness really closely map to the overall demand generation and demand capture process, with kind of unaware, problem aware, and solution aware primarily focus on demand creation, right? So building up the awareness for these problems and issues and how your product or service can address them. And then moving more over to the right, where a potential prospect is more product and most aware of your solution, moves to the demand capture component. We'll dive into kind of what some of those stuff looks like. So this has some importance when it comes to review sites and social proof and some other aspects as well. So with that, let's dive into the left-hand side of this on demand creation, right? So the whole point here is to really find ways to build awareness for your product or service and to gain the trust of your marketplace. And we think that all really starts with great educational, high value content. And you can kind of see how all these kind of flow into each other, but it's everything from your blog content, your ebook, your podcast, your webinars, all just really forming this really great library of resources that you can use to educate your market. And we're really big fans of things like podcasts because they can actually help to solve a lot of these buckets in one shot. So you can take one long form piece of content and then splice it and dice it. Which takes us to our next section, is all about organic social. And the key thing to note here is you want to be engaged and active where your target customers are. And for most B2B companies, that's going to be on platforms like LinkedIn, it's going to be on YouTube, it could be even on Facebook and on Instagram. You want to set yourself up where you can leverage your really great high quality content and be able to distribute that on organic social. So LinkedIn and YouTube in this example. And then not only just being able to distribute it on your company page, but really taking the time to distribute it on your personal profiles. So for your subject matter experts, your leadership team, your sales team, you want them to be able to be actively engaged and to participate in the conversation and to share some of these really great resources with the audience that they're building. Hey, really quickly, if you're a B2B SaaS or health tech company looking to implement your own demand generation program but need some help, schedule time with me for a free growth session and we can help walk you through how to build your own demand generation program. And the next piece now is going to be paid social. The really great thing about paid social is that you can almost guarantee that everyone in your target audience will see your paid social content. Once again, those are channels like YouTube and on LinkedIn and some other channels as well too. But paid social really plays a critical role in the overall demand creation process because it allows you to really get in front of your entire ICP, build up this brand awareness, and kind of use some of these other educational elements plus your organic social to further build trust. And as you kind of see by this chart here, these all kind of flow into each other. So as you produce educational content, distribute it on organic social, posts that do well on organic social, you can then amplify that reach and messaging with your paid social initiatives and kind of start this feedback loop all over again, right? So really credible, valuable flow chart here, kind of a basic structure for a demand creation process. So let's shift gears and now let's bring it over and talk about the demand capture process. Like I stated earlier, demand capture is really about once people are educated, once they've moved from these various stages of awareness and they're now starting to be more solution aware and product aware, this is where demand capture really becomes critical importance, right? Because now these individuals, they're much higher intent. They know the specific problems that they're trying to solve. They know the specific solution that they're looking for. And now they're starting to figure out that your product could be it. And so overall, this will help with your sales velocity, helping to fulfill your pipeline and actually close bigger, faster, better accounts. Yeah, so let's dive into demand capture, and we're actually going to start on your website. We think this is the most critical part for an effective demand capture component within the demand generation playbook. So at your core is going to be your website, and that is because this is the primary channel where prospects are going to go when they are ready to raise their hands and ready to buy your product or service. Your website is where your conversions happen. It's where your demo requests get placed. It's how sales conversations generally begin. It all starts here on your website. So it's just a critical piece of demand for any demand capture. So with that, we have really three kind of focus buckets. So the first is going to be on your messaging. So you're going to really want to know your target customers, know their pain points and problems, and the specific needs and challenges that they're trying to address, and to make sure that your website messaging fully captures that and that you're talking towards your exact ICP or the specific persona that you're going after. Next piece of that is going to be related towards conversion rate optimization. So you're going to want to make sure that your website is following the best practices for converting. And so that includes landing pages, which pairs back to messaging. So it includes things like your landing pages. So having vertically focused or messaging focused landing pages that speak directly towards your target personas, but it also includes things like your demo forms. And so kind of making your demo forms and the sign up process in order to speak to sales seamless as well. And a subsection of this are things like having self-reported attribution in place. So we want to know where people are coming from, how they first hear about your products and services, and paired with what finally convinced them to sign up, convert, and get in touch. This self-reported attribution component is incredibly important as your demand creation activities start to kick up. We want to know what activities are actually contributing the most towards demos and ultimately sales. So another component is going to be retargeting. So as people visit your website, they may not necessarily convert on the first, second, third, or even fourth time they visit your website. So a really great remarketing strategy becomes critical process of the overall demand capture flow. What this will also allow you to do is to put additional messaging in front of your target customers. So you can put in front of them case studies and testimonials. You can put in front of them more product-focused messaging on the key benefits and features that your product or service provides. With the retargeting, you can layer on a story that you want to tell, start to guide your prospects through a journey, and it's a really great tool and one of these critical pieces towards the overall demand capture process. So with that, you use similar channels like LinkedIn. You also have an opportunity to use programmatic marketing, so where you can display advertisements on the key news channels or publications or associations where your prospects may be. And the great thing about this is it actually adds an extra bit of credibility to your product or services if you're now able to loosely associate yourself with some of these much more prominent, bigger websites. So that's the first bucket is going to be kind of all things website related. The next piece that we're going to talk about now, as folks kind of move once again kind of further through this process of being product aware now, is really around review sites and building up social proof and additional forms of credibility. And a key component of that are review sites like G2, Capterra. There may be even industry or vertical focused review sites that play into this, but generally for B2B SaaS companies or B2B tech companies, these two are the biggest ones, but they're definitely more out there. So these sites really help for social proof and peer validation. Now we're going to move on to our final bucket, which is going to be all things related towards search engine marketing, both paid and organic. And you can see like this is another loop in terms of this process, but this is another bucket for high intent individuals. They're explicitly searching for high intent keywords related towards your product or service. And if the demand creation efforts that we talked about earlier are really working effectively, this becomes important as people start searching for your specific branded keyword or they'll start searching for your branded keyword versus competitors. So once again, paid search, really important for high intent keywords, Google Ads, SEO, more bottom of the funnel content that really helps to push the decision-making process further for your prospects. So on a high level, this is kind of our visual representation of what a demand generation program looks like. And there are much more elements that can be added onto this, but generally speaking, this forms the core of demand generation on the two halves of demand creation. So once again, building awareness for your product and services, helping to gain trust through the content that you're producing and being seen as a trusted and reliable source and authority. And then moving on to the demand capture now, where we have people that are much more aware of your specific product and your solution. They are now higher intent and starting to raise their hand, and we want to be able to facilitate that process as easily as possible for them so they decide to purchase from you. This will help you effortlessly acquire your ideal customers and grow your revenue. Now back.